Hello and welcome. If you're deep in the world of DORA compliance, you know that final Register of Information submission can feel like a pretty high-stakes test. Well, today we're basically going to give you the answer key. Our goal, to make sure your next submission sails right through. So, let's dive in. It's just the worst feeling, isn't it? You've spent all this time gathering the data. You've put the files together. You hit submit, and bam. Rejection. Just a list of confusing error codes staring back at you. That exact moment of frustration is why we made this explainer. We're going to help you turn that feeling into pure confidence. So here's our game plan. First, we'll quickly touch on the challenge itself. Then, we'll show you the blueprint for a picture-perfect submission. We'll clear up the super important difference between an error and a warning, decode those cryptic rejection reasons, and then wrap it all up with a simple checklist to help you get it right every single time. Okay, let's set the stage. Why is this whole process so incredibly picky? Well, it's because the regulators need data that is perfectly structured. The system on the other end is built to be extremely strict, with zero room for error. So, what is this register really? At its core, it's just a huge, detailed inventory. It's the official record you send to the authorities that lists out every single contract you have for third-party tech services. The whole point is to give regulators a clear map of risk across the system. And for that map to be accurate, every little detail you provide has to be spot on. You know, to make this all a bit easier to get your head around, let's use an analogy. Think of your submission like a secure package you're sending to this high-tech automated warehouse. If the address label is off by one digit, or the box isn't sealed just right, or the forms inside are filled out with a wrong pen, the whole thing gets rejected and sent right back to you, unopened. That, in a nutshell, is DOR reporting. All right, so how do we build that perfect package? You know, before we even worry about the data inside the files, we have to get the container, that zip file, flawless. This is ground zero. It's the very first hurdle, and honestly, it's where a ton of submissions fail right out of the gate. Now, take a look at this. What's so great is how logical the structure is once you actually see it laid out. You've got one main folder at the top, and inside it, there are exactly two subfolders, reports and meta-inf. All your data files, they go in reports, and that one little package file, it goes in meta-inf. And let me be clear, this isn't a friendly suggestion, it is a rigid, non-negotiable requirement. And this slide, it spells out the rules perfectly. This is basically Rule Code 103 in plain English. That main root folder's name has to be an exact match to your zip file's name, just without the .zip. And here's the kicker. The name has to be in all caps, uppercase, no exceptions. Then, those two subfolders, reports and meta-inf, have to be lowercase, spelled exactly like that. Any little mistake here, and your package is coming right back. So, you've sent your package. What happens next? The automated system over at the European Supervisory Authorities, the ESAs, sends back its verdict. And you really need to understand the two different kinds of feedback you can get. Okay, this is the key distinction right here. An error is a hard stop. It's a total deal breaker. Your submission is flat out rejected, and you have no choice but to fix the problem and submit all over again. A warning, though, is different. It means your submission was actually accepted, but the system found some issues with the data quality. You're still expected to go back, fix them, and resubmit, but at least your initial filing wasn't just thrown in the trash. Okay, let's get to the real meat of this explainer, decoding those common rejection reasons. To make this super easy, we've grouped the most frequent mistakes into three main pitfalls. Our first pitfall has everything to do with the package itself, the box and the labels from our analogy. These are the kinds of errors that stop your submission before the system even bothers to look at your data. The good news? They're usually the easiest to fix once you know what you're looking for. So, here are the top offenders in this category. We've already hammered on Rule 103. That's all about your folder structure. Rule 720 is pretty simple. You can't just have extra files lying around, and you can't have any typos in your file names. And Rule 714 is a really important cross-check. The entity ID you list inside your parameters file has to be the exact same one you used in your main folder and zip file name. Moving on to our second pitfall. So let's say you've got the package assembled perfectly. The next thing the system checks are the forms inside the box. Are they written in the right language? Is the formatting correct? This is where a lot of the sneaky technical errors pop up. These three are absolutely positively critical. First, Rule 306, all of your CSV files have to be saved with UTF-8 encoding. It's a technical requirement and there's just no way around it. Then there's Rule 809, which catches silly mistakes like an extra comma at the end of a line. And Rule 801 is all about your column headers. They have to be lowercase, like C00010, C0020, and so on, exactly like they're listed in the official data point model, which is basically the regulator's dictionary for every field. Okay, your package is perfect, your forms are formatted correctly. The last round of checks is on the actual content you've written on those forms. This is where the system starts looking at the logic and the consistency of the data itself. So let's run through the most common data problems. Rule 805 is straightforward. If a field is a primary key, like a unique contract ID, it can't be empty, period. Rule 503 gets triggered when you type in a value that isn't on the official pre-approved list for that field. And the various VR or validation rules are there to check things, most often to make sure that any legal entity identifier, or LEI, you've used is a real active code in the global database. Let's just pause for a second on one of the most common and, frankly, most confusing data errors, the foreign key violation Rule 807. The absolute best way to think about this is like citing your sources. If in one of your files you mention contract number 123, then contract 123 had better exist in your main list of contracts. If it doesn't, you've created a broken link in your data. It's just like citing a book in a research paper that doesn't actually exist. It completely invalidates that reference. Wow, okay, we've covered a lot of ground here, right? From the box, to the forms, to the data inside. So let's pull all of this together into one final, super simple checklist you can use right before you click that submit button. Just before you submit, just ask yourself these 5 critical questions. 1. Is my folder structure perfect and, you guessed it, in uppercase? 2. Are all my files encoded in UTF-8? 3. Do my headers match the official model down to the last character? 4. Have I left any of those critical primary key fields blank? And number 5, is my filing indicators file there and are all the values set to true? I'm telling you, getting these 5 things right will prevent more than 90% of the common rejections. It's a game changer. By breaking this whole thing down and actually understanding the why behind all these picky rules, a DORA submission stops being this scary technical monster and becomes a clear step-by-step process. We really hope this explainer from us here at RatiofyLu helps you submit with total confidence. So the only question left is, are you ready to master your reporting?